So let me ask you something. So if you were to one word, and you can explain your word why if you want, but if you were to say one word to a future entrepreneur, if an entrepreneur, you know, there's a group of people and say we were thinking about going into entrepreneurship, what would be your one word to them? And you can explain it if you want. One
Flexibility.
word. Okay.
That's my word to tell any entrepreneur. Be flexible, understand how to be firm while still being flexible, because you can still have your foundation on who you are and what you want to do and still be able to be flexible within that. You know, your foundation is you. That's who you are. That's where you're going to stand. But understanding how to be flexible in there so that you can, you know, move within the actions of how business grows, you know, and changes, and it ebbs and it flows.
Yeah.
So that's my word. Understand the importance of a foundation, but also flexibility. Be flexible.
Okay.
This would have been so much easier in 3 words, but
One word.
on teachable.
Teachable.
I say, I think, you know, being teachable is extremely important because you're going to learn along the way. I've learned to journal the journey, right? So it's a journey. It's not a sprint. It's not a big race. And you have to be teachable. You have to get around people that know more than you. You have to have a desire to learn from other folks, from other people's stories.
And take down that mentality that you know everything.
Oh,
Obviously you don't.
Oh, you don't want to. If you know everything, something's wrong.
Right.
You know, so you want to be teachable.
Right.
I think that's a
great
I like
word.
that one.
I think that's a word.
Yeah, I would say love. You
Love.
know, love, you know, keeps no record of wrongs. Love is not self-seeking. You know, any business that I've ever started, and this is how I've done it. Like, so every business that I've started, with certain relationships, I only start with the knowing that I'm not gonna ever walk away. So when I start a business, you know, for one, I don't start a business unless I'm okay just making nothing from it. So I only do what I love. Music, clothing, motivational speaking, logistics. You know, I'm a youth pastor now. I took the job because I love it. You know, so I don't do anything that I don't absolutely love. And what I found out is the exact opposite of what most people think. When I perfect something that I love, money is going to always come.
It comes.
It just comes, and it'll come in ways that you're like, man, I wasn't
I didn't see
expecting
that,
right?
wasn't
I didn't see it,
expecting
right.
that. Because when you truly love something, it inspires something inside of other people.
That's right.
And it's funny, like how I can write a poem, right, that inspires somebody to go fix their marriage, or inspires, like, one of the greatest moments of my career isn't the awards or anything. I got a message from this guy on Facebook. He's like, hey, my mother, she only has like 3 weeks left. And she asked to, when we pull the plug, if we could play your song.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, no, not just I'd love to talk with her. And so I FaceTimed her, we had a conversation, and this woman knew that she wasn't gonna make it, but she was okay. You know, because of, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, when I wrote that song, I wasn't thinking about her. Like, I wrote that song for selfish. I wrote it for me. I wasn't.
Inspire somebody else.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't like, okay, what could the world use? Like, I was like, what do I need to say? You know, and so I never thought that I'd write a song like living with I had to move back in with my parents, and I wrote a song when I had nothing.
Yeah.
And that writing would become the mantra of somebody leaving this world and knowing that everything is gonna be okay.
Words have
because
power.
They really do.
Words and power.
They
What's
really
your
do.
word,
the
Miss
time.
Wendy?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, what is it?
My word is grace.
Yeah.
And I tell the entrepreneurs I work with often, you have to give yourself grace. I say, God has already gave it to you. And unfortunately, we always are harder on ourselves. And it's just making sure that you give yourself grace. And it's okay. It's okay to, make mistakes. It's okay to fall down. It says it in the Bible, just get back up. And a lot of times that people just need to be reminded of that, that, it's okay.
It's okay.
I like that. I like that because sometimes when you're just you got your head down, it's okay to accept the compliments.
Right.
When you're winning, people are like, "Hey, man, you're doing a good job," and it's okay to stop a little bit,
Right.
enjoy some of it.
Yeah, how about celebrate? And
Yeah.
I still
Celebration
struggle
be
with
there.
that. I promise you, I'll accomplish something, and I'm sometimes so I'm so
We gotta
driven.
get back to it.
I'd be like, "Oh, that was great."
Enjoy the moment for a minute. Let's
Yes,
breathe.
and I'm learning how to do that now. You know what I mean? And I've been doing this a long time, but literally this past year has taught me so much. And part of it is just celebrate this win.
Right.
Celebrate the small wins.
Right.
Small wins.
Keep
Absolutely.
that.
Keep the
Rejoice
big goals in-
always.
Right, but
Yes.
the small things are really
Absolutely.
important.
That's a good point.
You
That's
have to
celebrate those small
As an
wins.
entrepreneur, you're so, we
Wrapped
have,
up into what's next,
Yes.
that we forget about. Hey, we
Yes.
just got this contract.
Yeah.
Let's go out and make sure,
Right.
Yeah.
take a moment to be proud.
Right.
And I know, a lot of people say you shouldn't be too proud, but I think we should all celebrate our accomplishments.
Yeah, I mean, we work very hard to get to where we're going, and
Right.
and when those moments come when you grow X amount of percentage every year, you take a look at it, and when you're in the middle of it, you don't even pay attention to it. But when you take a look and you sit down with your accountant and he's like, "Well, you grew 17% last
Right.
year. I did what? Oh,
Wow.
fantastic! All right, good job. Where did it all go?
Right.
So,
I'm learning to do that a lot more. Celebrate the wins, celebrate the people around you,
That's right.
celebrate the team. Just celebrate more because it can get. You can get to the point where you're hustling, you're grinding, you're going, and I try not to do all those INGs. I don't do. I don't grind. I'm not grinding. I'm not hustling. I'm not securing the bag. I'm being.
are you enjoying?
And I'm allowing my being to attract everything that already
go.
belongs to me.
like
Instead of the grinding and hustle. And for those, especially new entrepreneurs, you see a lot of that on social media right now. And you use social media social media was picking up. But before, when I started, there was no Instagram, Facebook. There were no people, to compare myself to all the time. I chose what I looked at, what I saw.
Well, that's something that entrepreneurs need to do now too, is stop the comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, that's one thing. My parents, we didn't have a whole lot. There's 13 of us. So, but one of the things is they taught us, which I love, is that we are all unique and we have all different talents, and you cannot compare yourself to anyone else because you don't know where they started from and what they accomplished on their own, what they're not. And so a lot of times, I'll get entrepreneurs and they'll be a year or so into business. They say, "Well, I'm not successful," because they're comparing themselves to a company that's been around
right.
maybe 15 years.
Right, XYZ is
And,
doing
yeah.
this, and you're like,
And I was,
XYZ
so it's like,
might have-
stop
yeah.
comparing. I know it's hard, and it's okay to benchmark, see somebody to benchmark against, but don't compare yourself that you have to be just like them, because you don't know, you're not that person. We're all unique.
I think young entrepreneurs need to understand. That's a really good point, Wendy, that you bring up, which is understanding the difference between benchmark and comparison.
Right.
And using examples that you appreciate and that inspire you
Right.
as benchmark is I think it's a great thing. To read, when you pick up books
Right.
or when you learn about somebody that's doing something similar, you're going, oh man, that's amazing, that's possible.
Right.
You don't know the backstory.
Right.
They could have started with, $100,000 or.
And you also don't know a lot of times how long they've been in the business,
Word,
because some of
yes.
that's not known.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden, people reinvent themselves. So all of a sudden, 2 years ago, I started this business, and you really look into it, that they started that business, but they had another business for 16 years.
I always think about the guy, there was, I was listening to this podcast one time, and they were talking about the owner of Panera, right? The owner of Panera, and he's telling this hard luck story about how he got started, and I'm sitting there getting inspired. I'm like, man, this guy, he started Panera. And, then all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, because my parents gave me $75,000 and then I borrowed $25,000 from them. I was like, you had $100,000 to start with to borrow, And so, if you think about yourself, let's say you want to be a baker, let's say you want to make cookies, let's say you want to do whatever. I mean, you're in the coffee business, you're like, be careful of those comparisons because you're not all starting from the same starting point, So it can skew your view of understanding
and can make you consider
absolutely.
less than. Make you think you're less than.
And that's
you
where
should
that
never
whole
think
thing of
that,
the grace that you
Grace,
talked about, or the idea of understanding those successes and man, I started, I agree with both of you. I started with zero, and I've been able to live my life. I'm married. I have a son. I have a house. I'm doing pretty well for myself, in all things considered, and I stopped comparing a while back as an entrepreneur.
You kind of block everybody else out doing your own thing, and then you're doing your own successes. You're not comparing.
Well, and success comes at that point because you start recognizing it.
That, hey, these are things that
these are my benchmarks now. I'm hitting these points, and I have my list of things like, I need to hit. I want to. I want to.
Right.
I want to.
That's
hit.
a different thing.
Yeah.
And then I think you can benchmark against a lot of people because I know I'm a service company.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, and this is so funny because I got to speak with them, but I've always benchmarked service with Ritz-Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the companies that you go to. I mean, even the person, I can remember the very first time I went to the Ritz-Carlton was people still smoked. So they had the little smoking things next to.
What city?
It was in, I think, Montreal.
Okay.
So the people with this clean out the cigarette thing, they came over and something was on the floor, and I didn't slip, but I kind of, how you do your heel. Mm-hmm. And she came over and she says, no. She says, let me go over and get you coffee or whatever. So I ended up getting like a lunch or something because, she said, no, you sit down, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And it was just so funny, but I've always benchmarked for their service, right? And last year I was their international women's speaker.
Oh,
very nice.
I was like one of the highlights of my life right there. It's like somebody I've always been really, the company, their service is impeccable. They empower all their employees to give a certain amount that they can do for their people without having to go to a manager. And it's just awesome the way that they created that culture.
And I mean, you're talking about the Ritz-Carlton. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a major company that at one point started with one hotel, I'm
Right,
sure.
right,
Because everybody
right.
starts
Somewhere,
starts small.
They are unique. I for a long time I didn't like going on vacation because I actually love everything I do, so every day is a vacation for me. So I didn't like going on vacations, and I was like, another resort. It's gonna take me like 2-3 days to really get acclimated and da. Man, I showed up to that Ritz-Carlton.
Isn't it a different experience? Isn't
Man, I'm talking about I was like, wow, okay, I could do this.
Uncle Reese, but you say every day, and you've heard it say in entrepreneurship, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. I push back against that because some days are work.
Yeah. Some days are.
Some days.
Depends on the client.
Some days are work.
For me, right? The work isn't the actual work. The work is dealing with humans.
That's okay. Yeah. If you put it like that, then that's
Like the work, like I could, if I lost everything, and I just could be at home with a computer and just a microphone, I would be content. I would be happy. I know what it's like to have a lot. I know what it's like to have a little. And so I'm passionate about it. I'd be happy. Honestly, success for me has honestly stifled my ability. You look at people like Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle. If you go to comedy clubs in New York or whatever, you'll be in a comedy club, it'll be 12 people in there and Dave Chappelle will walk in. And you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But they got Aziz just did a comedy special where he just walked in the club with 25 people. He couldn't even let people know he was doing it. But you miss stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's unsafe for you to be in areas like that. I imagine some boxers want to just fight people, especially if you love boxing. If somebody talks about you online, you probably really want to be like, hey man, pull up. But you can't. I have a friend that's a world-class boxer, and he was upset, and I'm like, man, what's up with your boy? And his wife was like, he's mad because he can't beat somebody up. and I'm like, bro, like you can't fight somebody for talking about you online. No, he really is like, we don't have to have no cameras there.
Right.
We can meet at any gym. We can just do it. I'm like, bro, like, no, like I have friends
So sometimes you can take love too much.
Well,
Right.
I have friends that are professional athletes that they really want to show up at the park and just play ball.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
So that's why I would say, you know, I work at not ruining somebody else's day. That's my job. That's my job. Just making sure somebody else's day isn't ruined, because my day ain't gonna be ruined.
I mean, for a lot of young entrepreneurs, the passion that we all have about what we're doing is there, right?
Yeah.
What we realize as we go through these growth processes that, you know, it's not just linear, but
It's not.
it gets, everything gets wider, it's amplified.
Yeah,
so, you
as
know,
you go and
it's
grow.
it's not down, you know, up to down. It's everything's all of a sudden your view, your purview gets wider. And there's certain parts of that. And I think young entrepreneurs need to understand that there's certain parts of that, you know, man, that day, that activity that you have to do may not be the most enjoyable
Right.
thing. But because you accomplished that, and you tick that off, and you had the perseverance to go, I did
more
that.
successful.
Yeah.
And then you're able to
Right.
go back to be able to fuel the things that give you the fire to do that one task that, oh, you know what, man, I don't want to sit down with my accountant. I don't. I be honest with you, I don't, but I do because I understand that is an important thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
You know, or the paperwork, you know, pulling a license when we all started, you know, filling out the paperwork on Sunbiz to be able to get your LLC.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just sitting there and just going, you know what, how do I do this again? Let me, wait a minute.
I know.
Let me
now,
Google this.
But at
up.
least now we have Google.
Now we got Google, but you know, but those kind of things.
Right.
It's exciting, but it's also things that you're like, I don't want to mess this up, you
Right.
know, and there's a stress involved with it that you have to be able to learn how to manage, you know, getting your licenses in place, understanding, you know, one of the biggest things that I talk about to folks that are asking me like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, are you organized? Like, you know, do you have your LLC or your S Corp? Do you have your C Corp? Do you have your, you know, your terms on paper? Do you have a partner? Do you guys have a partnership agreement? You know, the things that really buttress you is just having things organized, you know, being able
But
to.
some of it is, I'm going to admit that you do it as you go along.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, I had a business many years ago. Then I was corporate. Then I was in higher education. Then I started this business. And, you know, you forget some things, you know, because you've been out in the world, entrepreneur world. It's like now I have to have, you know, agreements, you know, privacy, because I share some of the information with people.
NDAs in place.
And, you know,
how do you do that?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But but those are the kind of things that, for me, you know, speaking of I enjoy solving those puzzles. You talked about like connecting the dots.
Yeah.
I really enjoy connecting the dots and solving the puzzle, you know, because I don't have problems, I have puzzles.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's in entrepreneurship, you're gonna get a lot of puzzles, and some are gonna be very hard, and some are gonna be like, oh, let me go ask Wendy.
Right.
Hey, Wendy, you know, I need your advice. You've done this
Right.
before.
And that's what we
you know?
need to remember, that it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like at this point in my life, I don't do anything I'm not born to do.
Right.
No, I don't. Like if I start a business or whatever, I don't do anything without my attorney. I don't do anything without my CPA.
Right.
I'm not organized. I got an administrator. Like I don't do anything I'm not amazing at. But I take
know
care
how
of
to
those.
get-
It takes time.
No, I take care of those people very well.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, but you know how to get those people into your circle where they're
I
working.
know just enough to make sure that they're doing their job. That's on it. And then, you know, one thing I learned about attorneys and CPAs, they all hate each other. So if you hire an attorney for your attorney, he'll tell you everything wrong. Yeah, Reese, he forgot that. That's a good strategy that I learned.
You know.
They all hate each other in that industry. So
I was just going to add this. I think we heard we heard it said here from just all of us. Even for those that are not necessarily starting a business, being entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial, it's all very important, because even if you're going to work in a company, work in an organization, we want to hire people who are entrepreneurial in their thinking. You're not looking at a problem and saying, oh, that's somebody's problem, but you're looking at how
can I solve this
can I
problem?
be the solution to the problem. You're looking for ways to add value. You're making yourself indispensable. I applied for jobs I didn't qualify for when I was younger, before we actually got the business started, or actually while we were starting the business. Little known fact, I worked for Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, took my Series 7 and everything. I thought I was going to be a financial broker. But I took that job so that I can learn everything that I needed to learn about how to run an office, about how to support somebody that was extremely successful. And I took, again, I'm just adding to my transferable skills. So I filled my bag. I mean, even McDonald's, you're learning time management, you're learning how to do customer service, you're learning how to count money. There are so many transferable skills. So I always tell students, your job, it's a paid internship. Everything is a learning opportunity. If you shift
everything.
Right,
I like
if
to
you shift your perspective,
right.
you should be learning everywhere. And when you make yourself invaluable, and you make yourself indispensable, then you've just created a successful life for yourself. You know, because people now are like, wait, no, we need these people could go. This one, we're gonna need you to stick around. We're gonna need you to stick around. So I think that entrepreneurial thinking, we don't want you to just believe you need to start a business, but wherever you are,
That can work within a corporation too.
Transferable skills. I like that. Put those in your bag, you know? Transferable skills. I every once in a while I do the exercise of like trying to put my transferable skills into a resume. Ooh, and then I'm just like, wait, where does this fit? And how do I, how do I do that? And I'm like, oh, would I hire me? You know, like just to sort of take stock into what it is that I'm doing every day, and just look at myself and be like, okay, would I hire me if I, needed me to do X, Y, Z? Let me rewrite that part of it, and kind of like just arrange my transferable skills a little bit better, because there's going to be times when you need to activate transferable skills that you have maybe had in the bottom of the bag for a long time. Like, ooh, I think I remember how to do that. Let me pull that skill out, and walk in the room like I own it still.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you all for being so frank and honest in this discussion. I think that's what people need to hear. And so I want to thank you all for sharing this time with me. And for our audience out there, we want to hear from you. We hope that once you listen to this will spark a lot of questions, and we hope that many of you will become our fellow entrepreneurs.